to the progress of this bill through the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kia ora no tātou.
The Honourable Shane Jones.
Ngā mihi ki a tātou I tēnei pō, I a tātou e whiriwhiri I tēnei take, e pāna ki ngā ika kei te kōpua, me pēhea rane e hauhaungi ai, me kaua tātou noki e whakamahi e tuku I ngā tāngata o rāwahi ki a tutuangia, me pēhea rane te wāriu o tātou ika kei te kōpua o te moana e hopu kina tikangi ai, ka whakamahia e tātou hei taonga, hei hoko ki rāwahi, me pēnā taku whakamārama. Sir, I stand to acknowledge the work that has been done in this area, and I want also to acknowledge Paul Swain, a colleague of ours who in the past was an immigration minister, who almost had his parliamentary career truncated because he had an illness. And he survived that and went on to hold a number of the commerce portfolios for within the Helen Clark government. But he was appointed, sir, along with a diplomat whose name, fortunately, I have forgotten. I think he was the former ambassador to Tokelau or some sort of auspicious position like that, and a lawyer. Anyhow, sir, they considered the issues pertaining to the usage of foreign-owned vessels and whether or not the New Zealand deep-sea fishing industry would suffer some extreme injury if access to those vessels was essentially declined. So that made its way, if I'm not mistaken, to the table of Phil Heatley before he discovered that his ability to shed tears was greater than the athlete currently in South Africa and enjoying the attention of the courts. And then, sir, it arrived at the attention. I can say that because he was one of the few people who unwisely made fun of me in my little dramas. And there's nothing about this, as my colleagues on the other side of the House would know, sir, there's nothing like karma. That's which, in fact, I think it's the book of Ecclesiastes. That which you do to others will be done to you. Rest assured, I know about that because I've suffered it myself. But anyhow, sir, looking in a mirror. Now, anyway, sir, it then got to the table of the current minister, and it made its way through the system in the form of a bill and came to our committee. And so our committee functioned well. And I do want to acknowledge the quality of chairmanship, and I want to join with my colleague from New Zealand First. Most of us on that committee have some connection with provincial New Zealand, and we've either grown up enjoying hunting, shooting, fishing, or whatever rhymes with that. And sir, we need to be very careful that we don't lose that connection with the provinces and the regional economies of the country, because whether we like it or not, progressively more and more of our MPs have been drawn from metropolitan New Zealand. However, we've worked on the bill, and so we did consider whether or not the bill could be improved by providing, sir, an opportunity for the for those groups that complained they were going to be penalised, and that was an element of the Māori deep-sea fishing community, those people catching pelagic species. But at the end of the day, sir, it's proved to be the case that such exemptions won't stand the test either of time or the current political climate. And I say that, sir, because there's now a new standard. The standard wasn't there in the 90s. I'll be the first to admit, sir, in those days I was in the fishing industry. And there were no great questions raised as to whether or not deep-sea fishing vessels owned by foreign interests should be used, and we rely exclusively on foreign-provided labour. But there is a change, and on this side of the House, no doubt all of my colleagues realise that new labour standards will be introduced, and it's up to the fishing industry, whether it's Pākehā or Māori or anything in between, to work out a capital response as to how vessels can be either upgraded or quota can be brought together in the deep-sea fishing community and put on vessels that will hopefully employ more New Zealanders. But I'd say this, sir, that the fishing industry has been easily stigmatised. In the unlikely event that I'm ever the Minister of Immigration again, I will never agree, sir, that we rely on foreign labour to man the freezing works of New Zealand. There are enough men and women in New Zealand who should not be unemployed, and they can go and work in the freezing works. If it's good enough for the fishing industry, sir, to have that access terminated, then it's good enough for the dairy farmers to be made to employ Kiwis. It's good enough for the horticulturalists to be made to employ Kiwis before they rely, with the exception, sir, of the, I'm quite partial to the people from New Hebrides, now known as Vanuatu, given I went to school at St Stephen's with many of them. But my point is, sir, if we're going to pick on the fishing industry and say that foreign labour is not welcome in the fishing industry, then I'm very keen to apply that to the dairy industry, to the horticultural industry, to the freezing works industry, and various other sectors who are quick to complain to politicians, sir, that they can't find Kiwis to do the mahi. So this side of the House, sir, we are going to support this bill. And although I have not seen the SOP, I have been briefed about the SOP, and as I've indicated to the chair of our select committee and to the current minister, they'll get no grief from me. And I say that, sir, as someone who chaired the Sealord Company and who chaired the Māori Fisheries Commission, and I won't hide from the fact that over the years, sir, Māoridom have had their quota placed on vessels that has been crewed, or that have been crewed, by workers not only from Indonesia, from other sources of labour throughout Southeast Asia. Sir, the challenge for the fishing industry is to whether or not they can catch it in a form that makes money. And that really, sir, is really at the heart of the challenge. How do you manufacture raw material, food in New Zealand and still make a profit? Milk's slightly different, sir, although you could say fish. You could say, sir, that fish is not too different from milk unless it's processed very quickly. It smells like the proverbial. But so I think milk is in a slightly different situation, i.e. it has to be processed very quickly. Fish can be headed and gutted at sea, frozen, taken up to, in my time, sir, to Dalian in northern China, to Shenzhen in southern China, processed and sold to Long John Silver or sold to McDonald's as protein before it's destroyed by the Americans, who douse it in sauce so it no longer tastes like fish. Which is, sir, why they enjoyed orange roughy. For those of you who have eaten orange roughy, it's let me, I know I've got a few more minutes, sir, let me entertain the House. Actually, orange roughy, sir, became known to the Americans when that great cinema icon, J.R. Ewing, ordered New Zealand roughy in the context of a movie called Dallas. And so not long after that, and I kid you not, sir, not long after that, quite a few queries came to New Zealand. Tell us about this orange roughy fish. And as a consequence of that, a lot of effort, sir, went into developing the orange roughy fishery as a source of protein for the American market, in particular the Lent season. And over the years, sir, we've made millions of dollars for the New Zealand economy by selling enormous amounts of orange roughy into what the Americans called the Lent season. Now, the orange roughy, sir, is a particularly sought-after fish in the States because when they eat it, to them, it doesn't taste like fish. Now, that's after they've covered it in condiments, which is essentially what the national government's going to have to do with its policies, cover it in condiment if they've got any dim prospect of winning the next election, which is diminishing by the day. And then, sir, after, sir, well, I could say confectionery when I look at Hekia, but I don't want to be ordered out of the House, etc., and yelled at by the Ngāti Paros, etc. They should spend their time yelling at the kohanga reo. They should spend their time assisting Hekia to tidy up the kohanga reo, but that's another matter. A change of government will be needed for that particular miracle to take place. But so the orange roughy fishery, it's a fish. It's actually a type of fish that's very dense. So it should actually appeal to the National Party colleagues, not all of them, in particular those that are on the committee that I share. There's nothing dense about them at all, sir. They're far-sighted. It's just that they're not valued by their own party, unlike myself, I think. Now, sir, yes, I realise, sir, I'm being called to give an account. I stand to assure the House that we will support this bill. Kia ora tātou.
I call Maggie Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my profound and sincere thanks to the member who's just